I'm with David Charap, a film editor who's been giving a talk in the Branchage Festival on editing. He makes documentaries, or he's involved in documentary production. And I want to talk about the future of documentaries. An awful lot of revenue seems to be going out of the documentary market. Is it sustainable? What's happening?
Documentaries exist in lots of different shapes and forms, but unfortunately in this country they are tending to become either factual entertainment, which is sort of reality shows on telly, or constructed situations stuck together with bits of real footage, or they are just glorified reportages, voice-led stories. One
of the trends that worries me is the fact that newsprint, written word, is diminishing in importance, and visual is becoming all important. Obviously that's the area you're concerned with, editing.
I feel sort of the reverse. I think we're used to... It depends on what you're trying to communicate. If you're trying to understand the causes of the famine in East Africa, which is a good example, you could have an extremely detailed, accurate, well-balanced report, which would be very informative, one hopes. And perhaps that's gravely lacking. We bandy it about, oh, it's a terrible famine, oh, lots of starving people, isn't it dreadful? And few of us have the time, patience, or perhaps, frankly, the real interest in finding out what's happening. On the other hand, you can have a searing image of a starving child, or perhaps in modern times a really telling story of an individual who winds up caught up in an East African famine, that makes you understand what that event is and what it feels like. And those images are going to be more potent than those detailed...
But where are those images going to be shown? This is the difficulty. Who's going to show them?
Well, I think that the real question is, what is it you're trying to do? If you're trying to understand the causes of the famine in factual, sociological, anthropological, political terms, then frankly making a movie is probably a waste of time. You know, if on the other hand you're trying to raise money for an aid appeal, then those images are going to be more potent, more effective than lots of statistics and information.
Because we've all seen in recent months the immediate film images that have been coming out of places on telephones, this sort of transmission. And obviously the visual images in those cases, mostly the languages are foreign to us, we can't speak them. It's the image which is all important. Sure. And we're assuming certain things from the images.
Well, they give you that frisson of authenticity and immediacy that handheld cameras did until recently, colour film did when it first came out, sound film did when it first came out. The cinema is full of moments of, oh, it's so real, it felt like it was really there in the room. 3D does in another way. That frisson is extremely manipulable and extremely dangerous.
I'm just a guy here with a little camera, and these are guys all over the world.
So you claim, but the images you're creating of me now could be highly doctored, highly sophisticated, completely artificial or manipulated images. And for example, I was recently cutting a reportage about human rights abuse in Sri Lanka for Al Jazeera, and the Sri Lankan government claimed that the repeated evidence on hand phones of Sri Lankan soldiers committing barbarous acts and executions and so on. He said oh, it's all video, digital effects. You see, this cameraman, I could pretend to shoot him now, and you would believe that he'd been executed. So they are. It's wonderful that through handheld devices we have access to real life situations around the world that we would never dream of having 5-10 years ago. On the other hand, like every image that's come before, beware, every sensation can be manipulated.
But this is the eternal problem. We just saw a film here about the cave paintings recently discovered in France. Fascinating stuff. Images produced consistently in the same style over a 5,000 year period, consistently the same. people over 5,000 years could understand whatever they were all about. We can't understand what they're about now, but in their time. But now, what are we to believe? What word, written word, visual image, what are we to believe?
Well, I think what one needs is time to consider. You know, what's wonderful about I don't think it's Herzog's greatest film, but what he manages to do in the film you're talking about is he takes you into that space and shows you again and again the same images. And perhaps if you have the time and space just to allow that spirit, you won't be able to put it into words, you won't know whether it's anthropologically correct or whether you're thinking of some anachronistic interpretation of things, but you will have a response to those images, your response, and that's valid for you.
Your talk today was all about your power as editor to organize the images to create a particular message, and that's the worry. Whenever I go with my blog camera, people say, oh, you will edit it to suit yourself. In fact, my editing skills are so minimal that I can't do so, but a guy like you with skills can create happiness, sadness.
But we edit all the time. You edit when you're listening to conversations. You edit with your ears to concentrate on a conversation, ignore the ambient sound. You edit with your memories, that the things you choose to remember, things you don't choose to remember. You edit in a more creative sense by juxtaposing things. When you think of something that makes you think of something else, that's editing. Whether you're doing it professionally, whether you're doing it in an edit suite, that's another matter. All
in all, we're having to wind up now rather rapidly, but are you optimistic about documentary making, documentary film making?
No, I'm afraid, to be truthful, because the real danger is I'm concerned that in a few years' time there won't be an audience with the imagination and the vocabulary to hear it.
That's very sad. Thank you much indeed.